Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Adewumi.
Mm.
So, good afternoon. You all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, but it's not clear.
Okay. Good afternoon. Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's much better.
Okay. Oh, okay. So first and foremost, I would like to say welcome to quarter 4. Okay, so I would like to say welcome to week 2 of the fourth quarter of the JIIPCC mentorship and internship program. Well, um, I'm your moderator for today, and my name is Oluwatimileyin Adeomi Elizabeth. Oluwatimileyin for short, Timmy. It's good. So, well, uh, I trust and I hope that we're all doing well, and I hope that we all look forward to this period, to this time. So, today, I well for me, when the topic was sent to me by saying, I just had to look at what the power industry is all about first, and I was able to, my brief research just revealed to me that the electric power industry covers the generation, transmission, distribution, and sale of electric power. Well, however, electric power and the power industry is more concerned with the sale of energy to the public and not really about the power. Can you all hear me, please?
The voice is not that clear. I think you remove your earpiece. Maybe you
Okay,
just talk
sorry.
without the
Can you hear me now?
yes, you can hear me now.
Okay. Um, as I was saying, I said when I was told that I was going to be the one moderating the session, I had to quickly look at what the electric power industry is all about. And my brief research just revealed to me that the power industry covers the generation, the transmission, distribution, and also the sale of electric power. And what I was able to see was the power industry is more concerned about the sale of energy rather than the sale of power. So there's nothing more like power, it's more of what energy is all about and how they can transmit it, generate it, and distribute this power to ensure that energy gets to every individual in our homes and everything. Nevertheless, I feel like this is an opportunity not only for us to be team members, but also for us to learn, because I'm here to also learn, despite the fact that I'm a moderator, as it be now. So, well, I would, next to the thing I would just like to, on our agenda for today, I'll read out the program, what JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program is all about. Okay, so JIIPCC Mentorship and Internship Program is a quarterly mentorship program for students, young professionals across Africa. Mentees are afforded the opportunity to access valuable intellectual property advice, training, networking, mentorship, internship, discussion forums, industry updates, and resource materials from experienced mentors. This program seeks to encourage continuous training, development, and evolution in Nigeria, Africa, and around the world. Hashtag the JIIPCC internship program. So the thing is, as at the last quarter, I was one of the intent here, and I can boldly say and affirm that I really, really learned a lot, is it in terms of networking and every other thing. So you can also watch our videos by searching JIIPCC on YouTube and Facebook. So I feel like if you miss a particular thing or you don't really understand a particular topic that was treated by your group members, you can always go to our YouTube channel and also to check us on Facebook to watch this video to cast your mind back on what has already been taught. So the objectives of the program: A, to provide easy access, guidance, training, and resource materials for students, young professionals in Africa; to facilitate dialogue and network among experienced and less experienced practitioners and stakeholders; to transform mentees into mentors and leaders for the next generation; to facilitate further mentorship, internship, scholarships, and job placements for the mentees. So one good thing about not only learning here, you can also talk to our mentors. You can also reach out to them and for them to mentor you if you need their assistance. Then also JIIPCC is like a platform for you to learn from experienced people, and it helps you to go from being an inexperienced person on a particular subject matter to being experienced. So, well, I'll just be making the following. I'll be making the following announcements. Well, so the registration for Q1 2023 JIIPCC mentorship session is ongoing, and you can tell your friends, you can post on LinkedIn and the likes. And they are fully online courses for intellectual property, artificial intelligence and technology, the energy industry, fintech, health tech and law, then patents drafting. So, well, 30 minutes of private mentorship with mentors are always available. Like I earlier mentioned, if you want to be mentored beyond this platform, you want to go beyond it by reaching out to our mentors, you can get hacks, secrets, life lessons, and directions from your favorite mentor. So at this juncture, I would like to encourage everyone here to please put on your videos so that we can see your beautiful and handsome faces. You know, it's not easy to be a fine boy and a fine girl, to be spec. So, and I will also want you all to know that we are live streaming. So please also ensure that you edit your name in the section so that you can carry your full name. So in case we have to like screenshot, so you'll be able to once you screenshot, you'll be able to post on your LinkedIn pages and tag us. So another announcement is registration for the JIIPCC end of the year party is ongoing for Abuja and Lagos residents presently. So we're inviting you all. Let's not just end this our meeting here virtually. We can also meet physically. You can get to talk to people and network also, aside the fact that we'll be having fun, because we have to loosen up. Everything is now about lo. So let's have fun. And the date for the Lagos get together is 17th of December. Yes, 17th of December. Then for Abuja, okay, yes. Okay, for the Abuja, for Abuja, the time is 12 p.m. to 4 p.m. Yes, and it's on Saturday, 10th of December. So the address is 5th Usuma Street, 3 Ham Zone, FCT Abuja, yes. Okay. So, well, I feel we just want this last announcement is just for you to like prepare your mind ahead of week 8, where we'll be having the awareness project. So I would like to encourage every one of us to like work towards it, listen, concentrate, take down notes, because you need all these things when you're in the awareness week for your project. Okay, now, so I'll be reading out our mentors' profiles. funny enough, I'm excited because this is another platform, an opportunity for me to learn more. So our first mentor here is Afolabi Ojosu. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, so we have Fajano Adewale Emmanuel, who is our mentor. So he's an experienced corporate commercial lawyer with a demonstrated history of representing clients and advising on a wide range of startup licensing, restructuring, compliance, and other regulatory issues arising from complex transactions across industries and sectors. He's skilled in energy and power, mergers and acquisitions, immigration and labor mobility, financial law, arbitration and dispute resolution, company law, intellectual property, and civil litigation. So, guys, hope you are taking note of your mentors. So, we have Afolabi Ojosun. He is the manager, legal and corporate services at Smile Communications Nigeria Limited. He has particular expertise in telecommunications and energy project development, regulation, and policy. He has advised governments, operators, and investors on a wide range of transactions involving the development of on-grid and off-grid power projects, metering services, offshore oil and gas exploration, production facilities, utilities, and infrastructure. He is a keen electricity market expert. Mr. Afolabi is a former legal advisor in the Nigerian Association for Energy Economics and doctoral candidate at the Center for Petroleum Energy Economics, wow, and Law of the University of Ibadan. Prior to joining SMILE, Mr. Afolabi has held contract and corporate advisory roles at Ikeja Electric PLC, Cowrie Partners, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, and the Enugu State Ministry of Justice. He's an avid author and has been published in acclaimed academic, legal, and business publications. You're welcome, sirs. It's glad to have you here. And I feel I'm so excited to learn from you here.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good evening, sir. So I would like to make this very important announcement, and I want everyone here present to note the fact that this is the time for your PowerPoint presentation, and each group has 8 minutes to present. So we'll start with group 1. Group 1, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can we hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good afternoon. My name is Evangeline, and I'm the presenter for Group 1 today. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to share my. Can we hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please carry on.
So can you? Yeah, all right. Can you see what I'm sharing? Can you see the PowerPoint slides?
Yes, I can. Can we all see the PowerPoint slides?
Yes,
okay,
we can see it.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you so much. So the topic for today's discussion is the state of the power industry and focusing on electricity generation. So I'll just move on quickly to what I have to say. Okay, so simply put, power is energy, mostly electricity that is obtained in large quantities from a fuel source and used to operate lights, heating, and machinery. So simply put, power just means energy, and are focusing majorly on electricity, like power in the form of electricity. So electricity can be described as a movement of charges, which are protons and electrons, from one point to another. It was discovered in the 18th century by Michael Faraday. So the major sources of power include sunlight, wind, water, biomass, geothermal, nuclear elements, and steam. Each source of power requires different equipment to harness, and these equipment could include turbines, alternators, waste to power generator, plant control system, and fuel gas stabilizer. The electricity sector in Nigeria generates, transmits, and distributes. Like you said earlier, that's what electricity is about, power generation in Nigeria. It means generation of electricity, transmission of electricity, and the distribution of electricity. So the electricity sector in Nigeria does that, distributes megawatts of electricity, of electric power that is significantly less than what is needed to meet basic household and industrial needs. That means the megawatts of electricity distributed by the electricity sector in Nigeria is less than what the households or Nigerian households need to need the amount of energy that is needed in the house is less, significantly less. So Nigeria has 23 power generating plants connected to the national grid with the capacity to generate 11,165.4 megawatts of electricity. All right, so I'll be moving on to the history of the Nigerian power sector. The advent of electricity in Nigeria can be traced back to 1896 with the installation of the first generating power plant in Lagos. Lagos was the place where the first generating power plant was installed in the year 1896. However, the first utility service company began operations in 1921, about 30 something years after its installation, with the construction of the hydroelectric power station at Kura, Plateau State. By 1950, the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, ECN, was formed in a bid to integrate the rapidly expanding electricity power industry and make it more effective. So the need to establish the ECN was because the electricity power industry was not as effective as it was supposed to be. So this corporation was formed to ensure that the electricity power industry became more effective. So the Kanji hydropower station was commissioned in 1968, what we know as the Kanji Dam. The Kanji hydropower station was commissioned in 1968. The federal government later merged the ECN, that's the Electricity Corporation of Nigeria, and NDA in 1972 to form the National Electric Power Authority, what we know as NEPA, with the statutory function of developing and maintaining an efficient, well-coordinated and economical system of electricity supply throughout the country. So the government felt the need or saw the need to merge the EDA, ECN and NDA to what we know as NEPA for the sake of ensuring that electricity is more efficient, well-coordinated and so that it was more economical for Nigerians. Privatization process began for NEPA in 1999 with reforms in the sector still ongoing. So now moving on to the current state, that's like the history of Nigeria, how electricity became, how the this power sector was developed in Nigeria. Now we're moving on to the current state of the Nigerian power sector. So Nigeria is the largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa, but limitations in the power sector constrain growth. Nigeria is suffering serious setback and limitation in the power sector, which is limiting the growth of the country as a whole, despite the fact that it's the largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. So Nigeria is endowed with large oil, gas, hydro, and solar resources. It has the potential to generate 12,522 megawatts of electric power from existing plants. On most days, however, it is only able to dispatch around 4,000 megawatts, which is insufficient for a country of over 195 million people. So our plants have the capacity to generate about 12,522 megawatts of electric power. However, we can only dispatch around 4,000, which is really low to cater for the population of Nigerians. So that supply is low, which results in poor electricity generation and distribution in Nigeria as a country. Nigeria has 23 power generating plants connected to the national grid, capacity to generate 11,000 megawatts of electricity, as mentioned earlier. So that's the current state of the Nigerian power sector, which is a really poor state as of now. How electricity is generated. Typically, electricity is generated from hydro stations, wind farms, or thermal stations. Due to the size of these stations, they constantly need new electrical installations and upgrades, which is why they hire a commercial electricity contractor. So the generation of electricity in Nigeria currently lies in the hands of GenCos, which are Afam Power, Sapele Power, Egbin Power, Ugeli Power, Kainji Power Plant, Jeba Power Plant. So these are these are the generators of electricity in Nigeria presently. There are about 6 in numbers. But I think the one that is widely known is the Kainji Power Plant. I really don't know why. Probably because of the Kainji Dam. That's why it's well known. But we have 6 generators of electricity in Nigeria currently. These power plants are usually located far away from residential areas because of highly combustible fuels and pollutants like gaseous emissions and noise. So regulatory framework for the power industry in Nigeria and their functions. Of course, we know that everything that has to work well has to have regulations, has to have laws or rules regulating its function and its efficiency. If not, it's not work as it's supposed to. So the Nigerian power sector also has regulations. So one of which is the Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005. Another is I won't be reading the definition because save time. The NERC License and Operating Fees Regulation 2010. Then we have the NERC Reporting Compliance Regulations 2009. The Meter Asset Provider Regulations 2018 was regulation was. So then we have regulatory authorities guiding the power industry in Nigeria. We have the Federal Ministry of Power, Works and Housing. We have the Nigeria Atomic Energy Commission. We have the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, PLC. We have the Nigerian Electricity Liability Management Company and the NERC. These are the authorities or the bodies guiding power industry in Nigeria. I'm sorry, I hope I'm not too fast. Hello, am I fast? Am I too fast?
No, you can continue.
You can continue.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. So we have challenges facing the industry. We have quite a number of challenges facing the Nigerian power industry, one of which is inconsistent enforcement of rules and policies. I think it's like a general challenge facing every sector in Nigeria presently. The fact that the rules and regulations that have been put in place to ensure their efficiency are not being enforced as they should. So which is reducing or hindering the capabilities of these industries to function properly, one of which is the Nigerian power sector, Nigerian power industry. So another challenge facing the industry is inability to reduce aggregate technical, commercial, and collection losses. We have another challenge, insufficient end user tariffs pricing, then the untapped energy resources. We have the irregular gas supply, transmission grid outages and failures. We have the poor maintenance of infrastructure and inadequate funding. This is not all the challenges, these are like a few. Just to mention a few, we can't mention all the challenges in the industry, but these are like the major ones that we need to mention for the sake of this presentation. So now moving on to the way forward. We're fine. We have seen the history, we have seen how far the industry has gone, we have seen the challenges that the industry or the power sector is going through presently. Now I want to look at the way forward, what steps can be taken now to ensure that power is being distributed as it should, to ensure that this industry functions the way it's supposed to actually function and do that it's supposed to do. So one of the way forward, or one of the steps we can take to ensuring that this industry begins to function as it should is proper implementation of projects, plans, programs, and policies. Of course, you know that if you ask the power sector now, they say they have plans, there are plans to do this, plans to do that. But then why are these plans not being implemented? Why have we not seen them coming into light? The policies that we have, a lot of policies, they are of no effect. They are of no effect. So one of the ways the power industry can actually move forward is when these project, this plan that they have in mind, the project, the program and policies are actually being implemented the way it should be, and ensure that the industry is running the way it's supposed to run. Then we also have another way forward is a cost-sharing formula for all tiers of government to fully participate in the development of national power supply. The fact that all tiers of the local governments, the state government and the federal government, they should all participate in ensuring that government national power supply is distributed nationally as it should. Like supposed to go to everyone, every area, every area, and down to local government areas. That's why all the governments be involved to ensure that the electricity is distributed as it's supposed to be. So we have a comprehensive review of the operation and management of the operation a comprehensive review of the operation and management of the power sector. There has to be a comprehensive review of the operation and management of this sector. What's going on? Why is things not going the way it should be? We should review their operations. Operations should be reviewed. Their management should be reviewed. Why things management happen in place to ensure that things run the way they should run. But since things here are not run the way they should run, the management should be reviewed and the operations should be reviewed. Then we have the diversification of power source. Then the upgrade of transmission equipment. This equipment that we have been using for only God knows how many years. Most of them are not functioning properly. Most of them have shut down. So that's why another reason why electricity is not being distributed as it is. So one of the ways of moving forward and ensuring that electricity is distributed properly and efficiently in Nigeria is that this equipment, transmission equipment, have to be upgraded. They need upgrading. Then vandalism must be stopped. Stop vandalism, and then power conserving appliances. So one of the ways that we can. It's one of the that's some of the ways or some of the steps that I'm taking to ensure that the power industry in Nigeria makes progress from the point where we are presently. So now moving on to the conclusion of this presentation. Slow but steady wins the race. The future of the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI, is gradually becoming clearer and beginning to look promising. The seemingly slow but steady improvements need to be acknowledged. Notwithstanding, a whole lot of work needs to be done to ensure the quality, availability, and reliability of electricity supply to the people of Nigeria, thereby restoring the much needed faith in the ongoing sector reforms as the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission set about implementing the Electric Power Sector Reform Act 2005. So, fine, we are making progress slowly. We are making progress, but then progress can increase beyond that which is happening now, because compared to other countries, we are way behind in our electricity production and distribution. But in our own way, we are making progress, but then it can be better. It can be faster. So although we are acknowledging that we are making progress, but then we're also acknowledging that we can do better than we are doing now. If this the sector is being is revised and it is ensured that the sector functions as it's supposed to, based on the regulations that have already been put down to ensure its functionality. So that's all about today's presentation on the electricity sector in Nigeria. So that is the last slide. The names of the team members of.
Okay. Thank you very much,
I'm done.
Evangeline. Thank you so much. Your presentation, well done to group one. You kind of like give us a background knowledge of what the power industry is all about and the history. So, well, like you said, you made reference to the fact that yes, the power industry, there's progress, but we need them to do more. And on that note, like group two to please start with their presentation. Rather, begin their presentation.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm the presenter for group two. I'm trying to share my screen.
Okay, so
Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen. Sorry.
okay.
So just to comment, Evangeline. So I think after Favor's presentation, I'll comment on both presentations together. If
Yes,
that's okay.
sir.
Please, can someone show me how to? Okay. I'm getting it now. Oh God. Please, can someone help me share the screen because I don't know how to do this.
Are you using your phone or you're using a system?
I'm using my phone.
Are you using your laptop rather or your phone? Okay.
No, I'm using my phone.
Well,
Or can I present without the screen? Because I don't understand. I don't know how to do that.
You can start your presentation. I'll share the screen when you're presenting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very much.
No, I think there's an error. I'm to present. Favor, we agreed on the group chat. Yes, I'm Victoria.
Okay. Please, can you turn on your camera?
Okay. That is my camera. I'm actually the one to present. I think
Okay.
there's a slight error, but let me quickly share my screen to save our time.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, please just spare me a few minutes. I've been.
I think you can start your presentation while you work on sharing your screen, please, because of time.
Okay, not a problem. I'm in group 2 and our topic is the same as above. But our topic is particularly relating to distribution and sales in the energy sector. Okay. Please, pardon me. I really need this thing.
Okay, thank you. So your screen is up. You can begin.
No, this is generation. Ours is distribution. Whoever shared the screen, please help us. Ours is distribution. Distribution and sales, please.
Please, if there's someone in the group who can present without the PowerPoint presentation, please start your presentation.
Victoria, are you presenting or should I go on?
Can you help me share the slide, please?
I
Because
said you
there's
can
some
present without the slide. You can present without the slide.
okay, not to worry. Let me begin. A pleasant afternoon to everybody.
Yeah, good
So
afternoon.
probably after the day, I would actually post the slide. So our topic is the state of power industry, electricity distribution and sales. Now, when you see the top, please can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, when you talk about distribution, it's it implicates that there are like three sections. It's divided into three. We have generation, we have transmission, and we have distribution. Generation is generating the source of electricity. Generation does involve
Sorry, apologies, Victoria. I can't see your presentation.
okay, we actually submitted.
No, I have your presentation with me. I'm just saying I couldn't see it on the screen. I have it with me.
Okay,
You can go ahead.
thank you so much, sir. Okay, thank you. Now, when you talk about generation, generation is not saying electricity is from the air. Generation is not saying electricity is from anywhere. It's saying there's a process these things take that power comes out. And normally, looking at our human body, when you rub your hands together, you produce your own electricity within it. That's why the nervous system produces electricity. Another source of electricity that Nigeria is blessed with is water. And we are particular about the dam because when the dam is gushing water, that speed that clashes with water produces energy. That's why we don't use stream, we don't use fountain, we don't use any river or lake, we use dam. Because when they fall, they produce that kind of heat and electricity is being generated. Now, there are many ways of producing electricity, but Nigeria particularly, 86% is from gas because gas is everywhere in Nigeria. Nigeria is blessed with abundant gas. Then 41% from hydro. Hydro is also known as electricity. Hydro is also known as water rather. And the remaining percent can be gotten from other sources of energy. Now, they are like the distribution company. Let me go straight to the point. The distribution company is like the middleman between the generation, the GENCOs. The GENCO is actually generation companies and the DISCOs. The DISCOs are the distributing companies. Now, why is there need to be why no the middleman is the DISCOs, which is the last. And now the DISCOs is close to consumers. The DISCOs is close to me, close to you, in the sense that when we see NEPA poles, they are the DISCOs. Now, why do we need DISCOs? Because when you are producing energy, that production of energy, the voltage is high. And you cannot take that voltage directly to the consumers to burn their appliances. It's too high for them. So we now need a transmission company. Like she said rightly, there are 6 GENCOs, that's generating companies. There's only one transmission company, that's government, is managed by the federal government of Nigeria. And there are 11 DISCOs. DISCOs is distributing companies. Now, these distributing companies are scattered to the regions of Nigeria. I know Nigerians have 6 regions. The DISCOs are Kaduna, Kano, Yola region. They are called Kaduna Distribution Company, Kano Distribution Company, Yola, Jos, Abuja, Ikeja, Eko, Benin, Port Harcourt, and Enugu. They are 11 in number. Now, I want to say something. If you notice that, for example, you see Eko and Ikeja. Eko and Ikeja, they are both in Lagos. So you'll be wondering that why are there 2 distribution companies in Lagos? Now, there's something we call electricity from allocation from loading allocation from based on the population, the industrial use of that particular area. And if you see Lagos is populated, if you see Lagos has a lot of industries. In fact, the major use of electricity is divided into 3. We have residential, we have commercial, and industry. Industry involves all those cement companies, all those rice mills, all those textile, all those manufacturing companies, flour mills, rice mills, steel industries. Those are industries that consume high electricity. And as the GENCO said earlier, that's the generator company, as she said earlier, these industries are affected when there's no light. That's why you see the back out. And that's another issue with the Nigerian economy. So that's the connection between the GENCOs, the DISCOs, and the transmission company. Now, you see that the GenCos is not only the generating companies that give electricity around. We also have what they call IPP, independent private producers. They also share electricity. We also have Niger Delta Power Holding Company. But this, all of them, aside the TCN, aside the
Sorry, I can't hear you again. I don't know if it is me. Are they with me?
Yes, I can't hear out too from my hand here. So
Yeah,
I think it's a network.
Yes.
Okay.
So the backup presenter can continue. The backup presenter, I think that's Favor, right? Please continue on
Yeah.
Habi.
Okay. She stopped at the discos, right? Yeah, she was telling us we have a total of 11 distribution companies in Nigeria. Then after that, we have the laws regulating the distribution of electricity in Nigeria. And the principal laws regulating this electricity in Nigeria is the Electric Power Sector Reform Act of 2005. And that's the current one. That's the EPSRA. Majorly, the Constitution of Nigeria equally talked about electricity, the generation, distribution, sales, and everything. And that was majorly in the current legislative list. That's the one contained in Part 2, Schedule 2 of the 1999 Constitution. That is where the electricity, the regulations on electricity in Nigeria is stipulated and how it's going to be used and ways by which people, government, and private individual can have access to electricity in Nigeria. But the truth is, according to the first speaker, Nigeria has the lowest access to electricity globally, with about like millions of people not having access to it generally. And that will lead us to like ways by which we can get access to this electricity after being generated and distributed. We can get access to them by either the estimated billing system or using the smart meter. And what is the estimated billing system? This is a situation where consumers are mandated to pay far above what they consumed because the customers who are charged are metered for the energy they consumed. What do I mean by that? You might be using the electricity you might be using power in your home or your industry or anywhere, but you might be unmetered. Unmetered means like you might not have a meter. And after that, you'll be charged for the power you use. Considering the quantity of energy consumed, it is the opposite of prepaid billing. And prepaid billing simply means paying before you get access to power. And the power we're talking about here is electricity. People have argued over the years that this estimated billing system is not advisable at all because some people feel cheated in the process because you can't be using something and it's not measured, and the people you're getting it from will just come around and charge you for something that is not even measured. So that was why some people opt out for this current one the most people use, which is called the smart meter. And this smart meter is divided into two. We have the smart prepaid meter and the smart credit meter. The smart prepaid meter, as the name implies, simply means the meter you get and then you pay before you start using the power. Then the credit meter are those ones you will use, then after using them, you'll be charged based on what the amount of power you consumed. And generally, the smart meters is an electronic device that records information such as consumption of electric energy, voltage levels, current, and power factors. The advantage of this smart system over this estimated billing system is that the information of the consumer on how he used it and what, like the amount of power he consumes for a certain period of time is like automatically recorded in that smart meter. You don't even need anybody to come and measure it for you. You see your power you use, how you consume them, at what voltage you consume them yourself in your own smart meter. And that's why most people makes use of this smart meter. And after that, I think that's one of the last thing we have in our slide. As my colleague has talked about the definition of the distribution and how it's done, and the type of people getting it, and the laws regulating it. So in conclusion, electricity distribution and sales is very important, because without that, the power generated will be of no use. Those power generated in the power stations. So it's necessary that the lines involved for it to get to individuals and industries and commercial users should be looked into and regulated properly, so as to avoid waste and breach of all these powers that are being generated. So I think that's the end of our own presentation for today. Thank you very much for listening. Hello.
Thank you very much, Favor. Yes, I can hear you, and I hope every other person here can hear you. So, well, thank you for that beautiful presentation. I honestly learned a lot rather. So now, I would like to call on our mentors to please comment on the presentations of the two groups. That's
All right, I'm here, but I think I would like to go last.
okay, sir.
Okay, let me go first, and I'll keep it short. Thanks to groups 1 and 2 for your presentation on the state of the power industry in Nigeria, and group 2 on the state of the power in distribution particularly. First, let me commend your efforts and your commitment to learn. I'm sure because it's a group activity, you must have spent some time to divide up the thoughts, and then of course research, write, and then collate before you present it. Let me commend your hard work and commitment, right? So you went through basically the power sector in Nigeria. You went through the different sources of power. You went through some historical perspectives, and then of course the current state of power generation in Nigeria. So I think that's great. But let me mention that I probably would have expected, I noted that in group 1's presentation, you didn't mention anything about coal as a source of power. So it's basically good to identify the 4 basic. You have coal, you have hydro, you have gas, and I just felt that it was important for you. There was no conversation around coal. Nigeria has a very rich coal deposit, which either through or previously has been a very... Apologies, I can't start my video because, okay, let me see if I can start my video. Yeah, I can do that for a few minutes. You will see that I'm driving. I'm actually looking for power, right? In a way, okay? So I felt it was important to mention that. I also noted that while speaking about the various, the regulatory framework for the power industry, I thought it would have been good to talk about the different kinds of licenses, the different kind of permits, all right, the different kinds of grids, and then of course when you were talking about generation, the different types of generation system that we have in Nigeria, I thought it was important to look at that, just for you to know that you have a very robust and thorough overview of the industry, right? I also noted that while speaking on the EPSRA, you mentioned basically, I think, NEC, you mentioned embed, you mentioned a couple of laws, and then I note that there are a lot of regulations that were missed out or left on research or referenced in your presentation. You could probably just do your due diligence to look that up. I don't want to bore you with most of these regulations, particularly from NEC on licensing, on operating fees, on independent electricity generation, on national content. Or I know you mentioned the metering, the MAP, the metering access provider regulation, the mini grid regulation, who is an eligible customer, and all those kind of things. I thought those are things you may also want to look at. Then the NEMSA Act, that's the National Electricity Management Service Agency Act. I didn't hear that in your presentation. That's for Group 1. I thought it was important to extend your understanding and your presentation to all these key regulations. So you could take it in this way. You could look at licensing, right? You could look at all the applicable types of licenses and all the applicable regulations that affect the different types of licenses, right? Then talking about distribution, you could also look at the different players in the distribution network, different parties, right? And then, of course, any guidelines, regulations, or applicable issues that affect distribution, you could also look at it from that standpoint, right? For Group 2, let me talk briefly about Group 2. I felt that perhaps you need to improve on the level of your teamwork, right? I noted that there was a bit of challenge with your readiness for your presentation. And when the first person who tried to present was struggling with finding the slides and, sharing the slides so that, she could speak to it, it was a bit of difficulty and there was a bit of waste of time in that regard. So in terms of teamwork, I think you could do a little bit more. And when I thought it was Victoria that went off, that transition to the second presenter or to the second speaker, there was a bit of gap there, right? So I thought you could do a lot more in terms of your readiness, right? And in terms of your teamwork. So you could have someone do the research, in fact, everybody should do the research, right? Then 1 to 2 people can put all the research together. And then, of course, you can also have 2 people nominated as presenters. So if one person has tech issues, the other person can help to share. If another person can't speak, the other person can pick it up seamlessly. And then anybody from the team can make contributions to ensure that your presentation is robust. So I noted Group 2 presentation was quite short. And I noted when the first speaker mentioned IPPs, she said IPP was independent private producers. I think you could do a little more check on what an IPP means. You will find out that an IPP means an independent power plant. You may want to cross-check and then update your knowledge in that regard. But great efforts, I must say, for you to have this interest in the industry, and then, of course, to put the presentations up like you did. So that would be my first comment on your presentations. I'll yield the mic.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. So please unmute your mics. Unmute your mics. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, Adewumi. Evangeline, good afternoon. Favor, good afternoon. All right.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. All right. So I'd just like to hear everybody's voice. So Chima, it's nice to meet you. Hussein, I can't see you. Favor, I'm just going to ride on what Adewale has said. And first and foremost, I'd like to say a very, very big thank you to the mentees that has come together to prepare this slide. Group 1, I think you performed fantastically well. Group 2, I like the quality of your slide. I'm very much impressed on the amount of research that has gone into it. Unfortunately, you were not too prepared to present here, but I'd gone through your slides beforehand and your questions beforehand. And I would just like to say thumbs up to you guys, all right? You're doing a very great work. It's not easy putting an energy presentation together, and I'll say that being in the industry. I like the way you've started from the origins of the Nigerian power sector, where we're coming from, all right? Where we are now and then where we are going to. Well, before I delve into your questions, I just wanted to touch on one or two things. For group 1, very good job. But then there's a whole lot you also did not touch on, all right? The Nigerian power sector is diverse, separated into 3, all right? Distribution, transmission, generation, all right? But then there's no way you're going to talk about power without talking about gas, all right? You said a lot of the initiatives of the federal government has not yielded fruit. You are unable to see. Am I correct, Evangeline?
Yes, you are, sir.
Yeah, so you're unable to see the inputs that has gone into this process and to see the increase in power. So the privatization process, when it happened, gave a whole lot of companies to people that were unable to manage them. But those that have been able to manage them, they've been able to succeed largely. You can see the success of companies like Ikeja Disco and Eco Electricity Distribution Company. It would interest you to know that Ikeja Disco does 24-hour power supply in some areas of Lagos State. So there's 24-hour power supply if you stay in Ikeja GRA, Magodo, Ogba GRA, some parts of Okoba, across the entire Maryland airport axis. There's 24-hour power supply. I can talk to you about that because I worked on that project, all right? And then there's also massive metering for those that live in Lagos. You have the MAP scheme where you pay for your meter and you get your meter. And then you also have the NMMP, which the federal government itself supports the metering scheme that is being done by these discos. So for those in Lagos, we can see a bit of that federal government intervention. The REA has also come into this intervention by giving transformers to a whole lot of communities. So if you stay in areas like Ikorodu and all of those areas, you see transformer projects ongoing. And then rural areas all across Nigeria. So I won't say that the government intervention has not been yielding fruit. Maybe we're not yet where we need to be, but I can tell you we're on the road there, all right? So it's like you are moving from Gwagwalada to Maitama, but you have not yet in Maitama, you are somewhere along Airport Road, maybe in Lugbe or Airport Junction, you are somewhere along the road, all right? You're not yet there. But looking at these interventions, all right, the government has also realized that some of these people that they gave these discos to could not run them. And this has been the case. You've seen the takeover of Benin Disco, Port Harcourt Disco, Ibadan Disco, Kano Disco, Kaduna Disco, Abuja. I'm surprised you didn't mention that. All right. So you've had either the various creditors or the BPE, and together with NEC, put an interim management in place to take over all these discos. And I can tell you that as of last week, NEC released an order on key performance index reporting for these discos, basically setting out KPIs for the management of these discos for them to grade this management on. So you can see the government is very, very serious about doing this. I'm going to go to group 2 now. So for group 2, basically your focus was looking at generation, and the question you asked at the end of the day was why we have no energy. Favor, am I correct with that? Sorry, is Favor still here?
I didn't get your question, sorry.
So I said the question at the end of the day for you was why we have no energy, regardless of all the state of the generation companies we have, the entire 23 generation companies you mentioned. How come we still have no energy?
No. I'm not talking about generation. I'm talking about distribution and sales.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So who was doing the challenges of the Gencos?
The first group.
All right.
We
So I
did
don't know.
that,
I have them labeled as group 2 here. All right. So the first group also mentioned that the primary independent power plants before the power sector reforms were Shell Home, Afam VI, 640 megawatts, pipeline 480 megawatts, AES 270 megawatts. So AES is a badge, all right? Is a badge. But one of the things you've not mentioned is, if this was where we are, all right, pre-privatization, where are we now today, all right? There are power plants that have come on stream and they are rolling out power like there's no tomorrow. You have the NEC dispatch order on prioritizing dispatch from hydro sources, all right, which now allows places like KNG, Jeba, Shiroro generate more power. All right, so that we do not have power is actually not a policy issue. It's an implementation and market issue. And I'm going to just I'll run you through a small slide that I've prepared on that. And then finally, I have about 5 questions here, all right? The first question is, how does inaccurate billing affect the power sector? And what can be done to solve it?
Sir, sorry, sir. Well, before we go into your question, sir, we would like the mentees to ask you questions.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yes, sir.
I was just thinking to answer their questions first. Go ahead.
Oh, okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Well, I don't know if there's anyone that would like to ask Mr. Falabi a question. Please, do you have questions for our mentors? Please raise your hand. Okay. Oh, we have Idoko Joseph here. Okay, so
right,
please.
Joseph, go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
And my question goes this way. It's not particularly about what the presenters give or the correction you've made, but it's about power. That is it the legal responsibility or contractual duty of the generating companies, that's the companies that gives the light to the consumers, to provide things like pole transformers, wires and other things needed before light comes up, or that of the consumers?
So Joseph, unfortunately, one of the things we've seen is that a lot of Nigerian citizens don't really know their rights when it comes to this. It is the job of the distribution company to provide you with your transformers, your distribution systems. The only thing that they are not meant to provide you with is the cable connecting from your house to the distribution system. Usually you guys call it the reclaim wire. All right, so that's the wire that goes from your house to the pole. But the distribution company is solely responsible. And this is why those transformers that you see, those wires that you see that passes front of your house, they call them regulatory asset instruments. They form part of what we call the regulatory asset base of a distribution company. So yes, so they call it RAB, regulatory asset base. All right. However, we live in a country where a whole lot of citizens, due to the impatience, the need to get power, it's a new area. There is, with all due respect, low current. All right. In that area, we need power quickly. Everybody joins money together, 20,000. We buy a transformer, we put the transformer there. And after putting the transformer, we donate it to the distribution company. And we don't get our money back. And then you continue to pay for the power in which you are the one that donated the transformer. So I tell people, before you do something like that, there is a NEC regulation called the NEC regulation for investment in electricity networks. You might want to write it down. So that NEC regulation for investment in electricity networks allows you as citizens to invest in that electricity network of that distribution company. You buy the transformer, you buy whatever you want to buy, but it allows you to collect that money back, either in form of metering credits, do you understand me, to you, or yes, electricity rebates, but you get your money back. It would interest you that under the MAP scheme, the initial intention was that the payment for the MAP meters would be credited back to the customers using electricity rebates, but then we are yet to see that mechanism come up in play. But that was the initial intention. All right, Joseph, did I answer your question? Joseph?
Yes, I'm satisfied, sir.
All right, okay. So next question.
Sir, please, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pertaining to this thing you said now, what about these commercial companies like that might want to like get their own power source directly from the distribution companies? Are they the ones to provide those materials, like all these transformers, towers, poles, and all those things too? Or those companies, are they the ones to provide it for the commercial companies?
All right. So Favor, for those companies, all right, don't forget they are not residential houses, they are companies. So those residential houses are your usual customers. For companies, they are what we call point load customers. All right, they are called point load customers. It means that the load that company is taking is so large that we cannot accommodate the company on the normal distribution system. So we have to connect the company at the feeder level. So if it's a company, that means the payment or the purchase of the transformer and the associated switch gears is going to be made by the company, not by the DISCO. By the company to connect the company to an 11 kV network. So companies are no longer by an order around 2020. So distribution companies no longer connect companies to 33 kV networks. So they're only able to connect to the 11 kV network. So if it is a company, the company pays for everything. All right, but if it is a private resident, you only pay for your wire from your metering point to your house. All right, and that's if you don't want to buy it by yourself.
All right, thank you very much.
Does that explain that?
Yes, sir.
All right. So
thank you, sir.
Joseph, you have another question? You see your hand up.
Joseph, do you have another question?
No, sorry.
Okay, please. Thank you, Mr. Falabi. Thanks for answering our questions. Well, I will be reading the questions that the mentees rather have sent. So the first question we have here is, how does inaccurate billing affect the power sector, and what can be done to solve it?
So how does inaccurate billing?
So I can't hear clearly. Is it just me?
Okay, let me
I
read the
can't hear
question.
clearly.
Okay. Let me read the question again. How does inaccurate billing affect the power sector, and what can be done to solve it?
All right. So
Can you hear me now?
I remember a group mentioned what we call the ATC and C losses. All right, the aggregate technical, commercial and collection losses. Now, inaccurate billing in the power sector is actually not because customers are not being billed. It's because the DISCO has not put in place a metering system to capture what the customer has actually consumed, all right? And what we call poor classification of the customers. So you have customers that are residential customers, all right? But inside their houses, they have pure water factories. So somebody has rented a 3-bedroom flat in an area, and inside this 3-bedroom flat, there's 2 rooms, is cold room to sell blocks, while 1 room is to make pure water. Is that person still a residential customer? So most DISCOs will classify those kind of people as residential customers because they don't know what is happening inside the house, all right? And where such customers is not metered, there's what you call a service-based tariff, called SBT, all right? That tariff in which that customer is paying is capped. So you would have that kind of customer paying 10,000 naira per month. But in actual reality, that customer is consuming 500,000 naira every month. Until DISCOs begin to make their checks and balances to know what kind of customers they have on every distribution system or on every distribution transformer, they will continue to have what we call tariff shortfall. Now, to avoid tariff shortfall, you do what we call classification of customers, meaning that you visit your customers, you know the kind of customers they are, and then you classify their tariffs rightly. So if they are residential customers, they are MD1 customers, you put them. If they are industries, they are MD2, the small industries, big industries, and then you classify them into the various tariff classes that they fall into. The second part is a whole lot of Nigerians today prefer to bypass their meters. The DISCO has installed a prepaid meter for you, but you have called Wale, who is your favorite electrician, to join one wire to meet one wire, so that when that meter is reading, your AC that you used to put on every day will not be consuming the credit. Or for those that like hot pots, or sorry, hot plates, you put your hot plate and connect it directly so that it will not read into it. A whole lot of DISCO need to put in place what we call checks and balances when it comes to installation of meters. Most DISCOs install meters and then they forget they have installed meters. There's a need to have what we call vigilance. Go back, check these meters, make sure that they are not bypassed. I'm going to be very frank with you. I have seen SANs that bypass meters. I have seen commissioners that bypass meters. I have seen honorable justices of the court that bypass their meters. And then they will tell you they don't know how it was bypassed or they don't know how it happened. I'm like, with all due respect, my lord, you are running 10 ACs in your house and you are paying 2,000 naira recharge per month. How does it, and you're running the AC for 24 hours, and you say ignorance of the law is not an excuse, you know? How are you consuming power you're not paying for? Or do you have miraculous energy generator somewhere? Now, if the DISCOs are able to implement just these 3 things, then you will have better tariff collection from them. They'll be able to make their collections much more timely. And then the final one is metering. Metering. I don't think there's anybody today that makes a phone call on MTN network, and after making the phone call, MTN does not send you a message to tell you you have used 20 seconds, and your 20 seconds is 1 naira, 2 naira, or 6 naira. Accountability needs to go into the distribution system. People need to be able to see, this is what I've used. They need to be able to know that if I'm going to work, let me turn off my meter, because there's probably nobody at home. When I come back, I'll put on my meter and continue using my power. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of metering. People need to be metered. A whole lot of Nigerians are not metered, and they are all bitter. In short, in most instances, I have found that Nigerians are actually paying for darkness instead of light. But then we are the light of the world. May we shine bright. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for letting us drink from your fountain of knowledge, because I can say that I really learned a lot. I don't think I'm I'm not the kind of.
Sorry, you're muted.
Yes, I'm saying thank you, sir, for allowing us to
No
drink
problem.
from your fountain of knowledge, and for coming down, I would say, to breaking it down to ensure that we understand what it's all about, because I literally do not have any idea of what mentoring is all about, but I can say that I've learned, and I trust everyone here has also learned a thing or two from this question that was asked. So, sir, Mr. Adewale, I don't know if there's anything you want to add, yes, to what Mr. Afolabi has said, sir.
Apologies, I had a call coming. Nothing to add further, actually. I think Mr. Afolabi covered the issues appropriately.
Okay, sir.
So I adopt his submissions as mine.
Okay, sir. Sir, we would like you to answer the next question for us. The question goes thus: what are the main causes of the persistent national electricity grid collapse in Nigeria?
Okay. You know, as a child growing up in Lagos State, one of my favorite slang was shouting, "Up NEPA!" Like, immediately NEPA restored the power, then you'd see us running across the streets, dancing, being happy. In short, if you're a Nigerian child and you don't know the phrase "up NEPA," then I don't think you're in this present generation, or maybe you're probably not Nigerian. The causes of systematic grid collapse and brownouts cannot be demystified immediately. There are a whole lot of problems, but I will tell you two, or let me say three, of what these problems are. The Nigerian national grid is what we call a vertically integrated grid, all right? Now, what is a vertically integrated grid? It means, in the words of President Buhari, a grid that goes from top to bottom. You have gas, you have generation, you have transmission, and you have distribution, and it goes in a straight line like that. Now, when you have such straight lines, whatever happens at any point in that straight line would affect whoever is coming under that line, all right? Because everybody is on a straight line. Now, look at it this way. There is no gas. If there is no gas, the generator cannot generate. Automatically, everybody there cannot function. If the generator can generate and the transmission is unable to transmit, it means the disco will not get power, all right? If the disco gets power and is unable to distribute, it means that everybody has to shut down. Now, why do we have load shedding? Why do we have brownouts? Why do we have system collapse? there's what you call demand and supply in electricity, all right? We call it load, all right? That's the term we use for it in electricity. We call it load. In the mornings, a whole lot of people are at home till like about 8 o'clock. So the load is always in the residential areas. From 5, 6 in the evening up to 8 in the morning, the residential areas draw more load because people are in their houses, they want to iron their clothes, they want to cook, they want to watch TV, others will put on their security lights. Now, from 8 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon, that load diverts to commercial centers because people are now in the offices, they are no longer in their houses. So look at it this way, we have 5,000 megawatts. We have 5,000 cups of rice. That 5,000 cup of rice cannot feed everybody. All right? So what do? We need to share that rice such that nobody goes hungry and nobody is full. So you are not full, but you are not starving. So in the evening, we take it to the residential areas. In the morning, we take it to the corporate areas. So it's like a game of cups moving, all right? The load switches, we take the power to where the load is. The load switches again, we take the power to where the load is. Now, in moving this power up and about, you might sometimes have what we have, frequency fluctuations or grid instability. Now, what is frequency fluctuations? There are some generators that generate power higher than what they are supposed to, the frequency they are supposed to generate power. Now, once their frequency exceeds the bandwidth already set, other generators need to shut down. If they don't shut down, they are going to get damaged, all right? And then you have a blackout. Or you have power being switched from one area to another, and the demand is more than the supply. You have 5,000 megawatts, but the demand is 7,000 megawatts. That grid is going to collapse. Not because there's no power, but because everybody is drawing it. You've not been able to do what we call demand side management, all right? So that grid is going to collapse. The next is transmission issues. So in between Lagos and Ibadan, one person has damaged the TCN line. And once that TCN line gets damaged, you would have grid collapse. There are several reasons for grid collapsing, several reasons, all right? Several reasons. It can be from the distribution arm, the transmission arm, the generation arm. It can be a generator that is supposed to maintain a spinning reserve so that when that 7,000 demand hits, that generator is supposed to pick up and immediately begin to give power, and that spinning reserve is not available. Immediately the 7,000 demand hits, the number of people that want to eat the food is more than the food itself. It means everybody will see empty pots, and then the light goes off across the country. Unfortunately, because we are vertically integrated, power is controlled by TCN, NSONG. That's this NSONG is the system operator. So you can find their website at nsong.org, NSONG, operator of the Nigerian electric power system. The office is in Oshogbo. So we practically send all our power to Oshogbo Control Center before we start directing it to where it's going to go across the country. It's not a good way to operate. I'm one of the advocates that we should have regional grids and regional transmission systems to make sure that each area or each region of the country has a sustainable grid instead of everybody going black out or brown out at all the time. And it's not easy to restart this grid. So when you hear the system collapse, all right? When you hear the system collapse, it just simply means that it's not that the generators are not working. It just simply means that probably those generators are not in sync. The power is not in sync, all right? Or they've lost functionality. So you have to do what we call a black start. So there are various power plants that have what we call black start capability, which is the ability to start the national grid from scratch. Black starts cost money. So each time you have a grid collapse and you need to start the grid back, it costs money. And then you start those generators one by one. So you can hear Egbin start generator 1, Kanji start generator 2, and then they begin to build momentum back on the grid. So that's what we have for grid collapse.
Thank you, sir, for a well-detailed explanation. I can say I also learned again. So the next question will go to Barrister Adewale. The question goes thus: are there any alternatives to load shedding? Sir, Barrister Adewale, sir.
I think he's not on the call anymore.
Oh.
Let me just take that for him. So
okay.
What are the alternatives to load shedding? So alternatives are demand side management, all right? It means that you have to manage the power from the demand side, all right? And that way you don't need to shed your load. The second one is what we call power allocation and transmission. You ensure that you have allocated power efficiently across your network. So you know which areas have power all the time. The third one is making sure that you have adequate generation capacity. If you have adequate generation capacity, you don't need to shed load. So load shedding is when you begin to either reject load or you begin to take power off from somewhere to give to other people. Now, because the power is actually inadequate, for the short run, we might be unable to avoid load shedding in Nigeria because we don't have adequate or enough power to go around. So in the short run, we will be having that issue. But in the long run, all right, with the more availability of power we have, the lesser load shedding you are going to see.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Okay, so do you have any more questions, or are we done with all the questions for today? Do we have any live questions?
Still have 2 questions. We still have 2 questions, but Mr. Adewale is not here online.
Okay, maybe we can just take one. Then if any other person has a question, you can just raise your hand up. So we'll just take one and then we'll round up for today.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, ma'am. So next
Thank
question.
you so much, Mr. Falabi. It's good listening to you.
You're welcome, Diana.
The next question is detailed explanation of the power industry and how electricity has been generated rather.
Okay, for that, I would ask maybe after the class, Junior, I have a slide on that in which Juliana can share. It's called Power Industry Value Chain, Key Players, Policies, and Regulatory Framework. Juliana has that slide, so she might share it with the class later on. How will I put it? That slide explains the entire power industry from where we were to here. But then I'll just give a short, detailed explanation. How is electricity generated? A lot of people think we just take electricity from thin air, but then that is actually the truth. Electricity, for those that did science, is electrons, drawn together using capacitors, passed through a system to power activities. Most generators today just have one thing to make sure they work. They need a motor to be driven along an alternator to produce electricity. Now, apart from renewable energy, every other form of electricity from hydro to gas is just a motor driving an alternator, all right, to produce the electricity. So for those that are using gas-powered plants, you're using your gas to boil water, and then you're using the water to turn your turbines. For hydro, you are using the hydro power, the power of the water to turn those turbines. And that is actually how you have electricity. I think the key question is not much more about generation, it's much more about the type of equipment you need to generate. So when people tell us that there are various modes of generation, there are various fuel types, there are various fuel sources, all the fuel sources you have tie back into one thing. If it is not solar and if it is not wave, it ties back into your ability to use whatever fuel source you are using to turn your alternator to generate power. And those alternators don't come cheap. And that is why power also does not come cheap. The power industry, like I mentioned before, is vertically integrated in most countries. In other countries, they operate different systems. For some countries, their power systems are bilateral in nature. So you just have a GENCO feeding directly into a DISCO. There's no transmission company. All right? There's just a GENCO feeding directly into a DISCO, and the DISCO is selling power. For others, they generate power through various means, either using small-scale solar home system, mini grids. There are various ways in which power can be generated. But for me, the most important thing is this: whatever power you are generating, no matter how you are generating it, is the power affordable? Is the power accessible to the people you are generating it for? And then can they use the power you've generated to better their lives? So no matter what you do, no matter how you get it, those three key things are the most important things. For instance, if a kilowatt of power was 2,000 naira per kilowatt, I'm sure it will be beyond the reach of the average Nigerian. So at all points in time, is power affordable? How much do you need to pay for that power in order to get it? So I believe Juliana will share the slide, and I believe this wraps up today's class. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. We are most grateful. This goes to all the mentees. Please, we would like you to turn on your camera, screenshot, so that you can post on LinkedIn. You can post what you've learned on LinkedIn.
Oh, and did I mention, if you need more insight on the Nigerian power sector, if you feel power is something you want to do, you can speak to Juliana also. She can tell you how to reach me. You can also add me up on LinkedIn, and then we'll continue the conversation from there. Thank you, everybody.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Adewumi, do you have your permission to log out to join another meeting?
Thank you very much, Mr. Folabi. We're already done with the meeting for today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing with us. And thank you to all the mentees. Sorry, my camera is not on. Here it's a bit dark. Thank you, everyone, for the research and for the work put in. Thank you, Adewumi. Thank you, Hussein. Thank you, Favor. Thank you, all the presenters. Well done, well done. We've all done amazingly well today. So I wish everyone a good night's rest. Please prepare for next week. Your topics will be sent to you. Once again, thank you so much, Mr. Folabi. Bye, everyone.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, all mentors.